Ito lang ang tema. hearing on my resolution, but alam ko naman marami pa tayong itatakal this morning and we will be having our session early today. We can proceed with our resource person.
Oh, sige. So with that, let's begin to discuss the issue of the counterfeiting immediately. At who do we have to discuss this problem? Dana, please.
Hello, ma'am.
Oo, sige. Okay. Yes.
Maybe we can start with BOC.
Yes, all right. So maingay. Here. Okay, let's have DOT. Is there a representative of DOT here, please?
Bureau of Customs.
Okay, yes, we have the issue of yes, the DOT. Walang DOT, walang DTI.
Bureau of Customs, ma'am.
Oh, sige, pakitawag na lang yung Bureau of Customs lang, please.
Assistant Director Amelita DJ Ortiz po, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Ortiz, is there anything that we can hear from you? Alam po ninyo, Senator Nancy, for your information, a similar resolution was actually filed by myself regarding the misappropriation of cultural property in the past. And this had to do with the chinelas of the Tribu Corporation, once again appropriating the kalinga and other tattoo designs as part of their effort. And many of the tribes considered it disrespectful and disingenuous and unduly commercialized. In this case, in addition to the misappropriation of cultural property, we have the issue of importation of counterfeit. So the customs is here and perhaps you can help us.
Good morning, ma'am. This is Deputy Commissioner Ramiro of the Bureau of Customs. For 2020, ma'am, we have a total of 3,894 importers of products on woven fabrics. But of this number, as of our figures, there had been no IPR related seizures, meaning for 2020, our figures has 10.5 billion seized goods of different commodities, and of this number, the counterfeit goods amounted or valued at 1 billion. Those seized goods were mostly IPR related goods, yung mga branded goods, ma'am. But on woven fabrics, we have no recorded seizures.
I see. Yes, Madam Senator, meron tayong mga reports no na lumabas sa Inquirer tungkol sa isang kababaihan, si Virginia Doligas ng Eastern Weaving Room, na inirereklamo pati ni Representative Max Dalog na talagang nag-i-import daw ng mga counterfeit. So ito yata ang binadaing ni Senator Binay, pati si Senator Cayetano. We recognize Senator Binay.
Actually, Madam Chair, tatanong ko lang kung yung BOC, may capability ba sila to determine kung ano yung counterfeit na weaving fabric?
Ma'am, for your question, ma'am, as of this date, there is no registration of IPR related on woven fabrics design. Meaning, meron po kami mga list of registrations of branded goods. So far, ma'am, wala ma'am kaming any record on woven fabrics.
Actually, hindi ko rin alam eh. Saan ba dapat irehistro ng ating mga IPs? Yung mga, for example, yung mga weaving designs sa IPO ba? Would NCCA be the, dun ba sila dapat magparehistro? So maybe we can hear from IPO and NCCA
Yes.
kung may programa ba tayo on how we would protect itong mga designs ng ating mga IPs, lalong-lalo na itong para sa weaving.
If I may just update the group, because of my Senate resolution, yung 517, which was inquiring na nga into the misappropriation of indigenous cultural heritage, I'd like to inform Senator Nancy and the group that the NCIP and the IPO are presently crafting guidelines with regard to misappropriation na naging mainit na topic, hindi lamang dito sa Pilipinas, kundi sa iba't ibang lugar. Ang problema talaga ng customs, ang pagkasabi nila, unang-una, hindi naman nila alam kung talagang ano yun. Kung minsan kasi, may legitimate concern rin, sasabihin na Vietnamese, Taiwanese, or Chinese design, na kung tutuusin, marami talagang magkamukha. At yung iba naman, ang sinasabi ng Design Center, NCCA, at yung ibang cultural heritage groups, certain themes or motifs have actually entered the mainstream and are now part of World Heritage and cannot as such be misappropriated. Medyo mas halimuot ang usapin ng kultura, kaya siguro kung mamarapatin, kung walang DTI dito, may NCIP ba? You'd like to weigh in on the subject?
Just to add, Madam Chairwoman, I am not sure. I think sa UNESCO ata meron din silang way of para mag-register itong mga designs na nabanggit mo para talaga globally protected sila. I can't remember lang kung ano yung office in charge of that. Maybe, I don't know if NCCA would know or NCIP would know that.
Yeah, Dana, Secretary, nandito ba yung IPO or NCCA? Palagay ko meron naman Edwin Antonio sa NCCA.
NCCA po,
Makikita ko
ma'am.
sa aking screen. NCIP, si Commissioner Jong andyan kanina pa.
Naimbaga bigat mo, Madam Chair.
Amit ako.
Right now. Sa NCCA po, no, actually, ang ginawa pong action namin ay nagsulat po kami sa IPO Philippines para makipag-dialogo kasi hindi po rin namin malaman kung ano bang action na gagawin dahil nakasalalay din sa IPO kasi dapat sana ma-register itong mga weave designs na ating mga weaving communities. Pero yun nga po, nagulantang ang ating weaving industry kasi ito nagsulputan po ito mga fake textiles, no? Hindi lang sa merkado, no? Pati sa online shopping platform, makikita nyo po, pag click nyo, nandun po. These are actually Cordillera pattern. So yun po, hinintay lang po namin yung ang reply ng ating IPO Philippines para sa dialogo na gagawin namin para at least makagawa kami ng mas konkretong action para sa pagprotekta ng ating mga weave patterns po.
Yes, Apo Antonio. Yes, Apo Antonio, if I may, hindi ba may ongoing project yung Design Center? Di ba, Senator Binay? Diyan sa Design Center, kinukumpuni nila dapat yung mga inherent indigenous Filipino patterns. Parang may libro silang ganyan. Baka doon dapat magsimula, pagkatapos irehistro sa IPO, parang gano'n. Are you aware
yes,
of that
Madam.
project?
But siguro,
Yes,
Madam.
Okay.
Then,
Sorry.
please go ahead. Please.
Yun po, may issue po kasi, Madam Chair, kasi yung mga weaves patterns kasi, pag-aari po ng community. So hindi rin pwedeng i-register under one name, individual. So dapat isang komunidad po ang nagmamay-ari ng mga weaves na to. So yun po yung concern namin, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is the IPO here? Perhaps you can enlighten us if there is another way to do this so that it's a community or tribal property as opposed to an individual's authorship.
Yes, may I speak, Madam Chair?
Yes, I see Nelson Laluces, tama ba?
Yes, I'm one of the Deputy Director Generals of the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines.
Thank you for coming, yes.
Thank you also for inviting us. May I also acknowledge, I forgot to acknowledge one of our directors who is also here, Director of Copyright, Director Emerson Cuyo. Now, tama po, yung kanina may nag-mention yung sa IP at saka IPO field nagkaroon ng Joint Administrative Order way back in 2017. Ito nga po para matugunan yung problema ng mga ganitong, ang tawag po dito talaga, ang general term is GRTKF-TCE, Genetic Resources, Traditional Knowledge, Folklore, and Traditional Cultural Expressions. Sa ngayon po, wala talagang mode of registration sa IPO na talagang para lang dito sa ganitong klase ng creation, shall we say, creation. Pero doon po sa Joint Administrative Order, meron pong kasunduan doon na bibigyan kami ng gagawa ng database ang NCIP ng mga traditional products, traditional cultural expressions at folklore, etc. Yun ang kasama sa GRTK-TCE and folklore, para po pag mayroong nag-register sa amin na palagay namin ay similar do sa mga nasa database, i-check namin database and hihinga ng consent kung mayroong consent galing doon sa community na mayroong naka-register or nasa database na may ganoong mga klaseng products. Yes.
Nag-push forward ba yan? Kasi 2017 pa yung AO, matagal na.
Opo, wala po ngayong, wala pa yung database. Pero sa ngayon naman po, on our part, ang ginawa ng aming Bureau of Patents, doon po under yung, actually, yung design, industrial design registration, pagka may mga magre-register po, tinatanong na lang, pero ito po ay voluntary disclosure noong mag-a-apply. Tinatanong na lang, ito ba ay ang source ba nito ay yung traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expression, or genetic resources, or folklore. Kung hindi sabihin, wala pa kaming magagawa dahil wala kaming way of checking. Pwede po, baka may i-add po yung aking director ng patents, si Director Loli.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes po.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes,
with the permission of the chairwoman.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Nelson, paano kung umami naman yung nag-a-apply?
Hihingan po ng consent.
What will happen dun sa application?
Hihingan po ng consent from the community from where it is supposed to have originated, or kung saan kinopya, or kung walang consent, hindi po mare-register.
And meron na nag-apply na ganun? Na umami naman na talagang yung design is from an IP community?
Madam Chair, may I call on our Director of Patents, under whose jurisdiction it was. Director Beth? Director Lolibet Medrano.
Madam Chair, Senator Binay, and resource persons, good morning po. Ma'am, and to answer your question and to further shed details on the registry, the NCIP is supposed to develop that registry and give that registry to us, which will then be the basis for us to search whether a design is new or ornamental. Under the existing IP code ho kasi, there are two conditions for the registration of industrial designs. One is newness or novelty, it must be new, and then the other is it has an ornamental value. So doon po sa execution po ng joint administrative order, wala hong naibigay na registry pang NCIP to us, but we deemed it necessary to revise our forms and request for the declaration nga po of the origin of the design. So that would include na po yung the consent, and if there is no consent, it goes through a registration, a publication procedure, so that the public is invited to give information to the IP office if that application is indeed new, or if it's being used by other community or is owned by the community. So that's the transparency ho involved in the industrial design registration process. But if I may just explain lang po no yung limitations of the IP system, ma'am, Madam Senators. Yun hong protection of community rights, yung indigenous cultures po, no, does not fall perfectly into the IP system for several reasons. One, the element of exclusivity for IP rights ho kasi is very specific, no, the creator or the inventor must be identified with specificity. In the case of indigenous cultures po, no, the IP right, well, the IP, the designs, is owned collectively by the community. So that's already a one gap. The other po is for intellectual property rights, this is just given for a limited period of time, 20 years for patents. For industrial design, a maximum period of 15 years. And after that, it falls na po into the public domain. So I think that's not the intention for us to make this fall into the public domain, because we want to respect the ownership, and we want to value the cultural heritage of this cultural heritage that we get from indigenous cultures and communities po. But having said that, Madam Chair, and moving forward, so the IPO is now looking at a sui generis protection for cultural communities, but we would be working with the relevant stakeholders, the cultural agencies, and the NCIP to look at a sui generis protection for these types of cultural heritage, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yung sui
Direct-
generis na sinasabi ninyo, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yung sui generis na sinasabi na protection, what kind of protection would that be? What did you have in mind? I'm curious because that seems to be an area for fresh legislation, it would seem.
Yes, Madam Senator, we will be veering away from the exclusivity or one specific creator for one creation. So because the element of collective ownership is very is at the core of the protection of indigenous cultures po. So that's one element that we're looking at. And then yun hong element of the period of protection, because we don't want these designs to be falling into the public domain, because if it falls into the public domain, then everybody can copy it and everybody can use it. So
I think, Director, though, that that's become also a subject of debate, because certain motifs, for example, the sari manok, have really become mainstream. So that ownership claim would seem to be ludicrous at this point, and in fact bolsters the cultural identity of said IP group, given the national or even international recognition of the same. So medyo may debate rin dyan eh.
Yes, Madam Senator, and that's why we would want also to work with the relevant agencies and stakeholders to look at the elements that we are going to incorporate in the sui generis protection po.
Thank you. So Senator Nancy, please, sorry.
Hindi, Madam Chair, tsaka siguro ang isa pang point ng pagdedebate is kailan ba dapat for public use yung mga weaving designs ng ating mga IPs at kailan siya dapat lang para sa kanila. So I guess dapat ba talagang i-mainstream? I don't know, hindi ko alam kung anong ahensya, maybe NCCA can share their thoughts kung I guess napaka gray nung line yung when it's for public consumption and when it's kumbaga nade-desecrate mo na yung gamit nung weaving design na yan for commercial use.
Yeah, Senator Nancy, doon sa misappropriation na previous hearing, ang issue, yung respect and dignity of the use of said motif or costume and so on. Kasi, halimbawa, inis na inis sila doon sa mga beauty contest na pinaghalo-halo yung costume para lang bongga. O di kaya, inapak-apakan yung mga motif na considered more or less sacred sa Cordillera, ginawang tsinelas, parang na-offend. May ganun may ganun na usage na hindi talaga katanggap-tanggap.
But apparently, Sen Aimee, there's a big demand for yung mga ganitong design. Kasi the mere fact na, di ba, na ginagaya na siya ng China, ibig sabihin, there's a market for mga designs, lalong-lalo na nung galing sa Cordillera. So, babalik ulit tayong how do we protect those designs. And
That's
I think
right.
siguro baka maganda i-involve ng IPO yung NCCA also
Yes.
dun sa kanilang usapin. Dahil I think pagdating dun sa repository of data, I think baka mas marami yung NCCA more than NCIP.
That's correct. Thank you very much. And with that, if there are no more resource persons or comments regarding this bill, may I conclude by saying and instructing our committee secretary yes? Did somebody want to speak? Sorry. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, Jennifer P.S. Buglas of NCIP.
Yes.
If I may.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, Honorable Senator Nancy Binay, to our fellow IP rights advocate, our partners in public service, as well as yung kasamahan ko po sa NCIP, si Commissioner Navarro, and our lady lawyer, Attorney Adrian. We thank you, Madam Chair, for this measure, most especially because it protects the rights of our indigenous peoples, especially our IP weavers, who are not just located in the north, but also nandito rin po sa south, specifically in Caraga and dito sa South Cotabato, wherein not just our weavers, but our embroiderers po, yung kanilang indigenous fabric, ay nagpo-proliferate na rin po sa market na ginagawang peke. And so, Madam Chair, yes, if I may read po the comments of the agency. Opo. Madam Chair, if I may read the comments of NCIP.
Yeah, kung maiksi lang,
Madam,
if you don't mind, and then you can submit
yes, maiksi lang po.
to the committee so that we can study it.
Opo. Yeah, opo. Yung mga ICC's IPs are, and yung emphasis namin dyan is entitled to the recognition of full ownership and control and protection of their cultural and intellectual rights po. And then meron na rin po kaming actions undertaken, Madam Chair, dito po sa mga reklamo ng ating IPs, hindi lamang po sa North, but sa buong Pilipinas po. Pero na kaming ginawa yung yung New Era Company sometime in 2019, yung NCIP natin nag-request company called Signs of Wood. And then on Vans Philippines in November 20, yung central office naman namin nag-issue rin ng sulat sa Vans in abeyance, to hold in abeyance yung kanilang release of their clothing apparel bearing yung python design din po ni Wang Wood, because ang community asserted that it is not just individually owned yung design, but actually is owned by the community. And so meron din kaming task force on cultural appropriation na create po ng NCIP to address this cultural appropriation concerns po, or yung issues or complaints ng ating weavers, creators, as well as makers po within their communities. Maraming salamat, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator.
Siguro before we proceed to the next topic, gusto ko lang tanong sa NCIP, how come hindi pa sila nagkakasubmit ng database sa IPO?
May I answer that?
Yes, I think Commissioner Jong Navarro of NCIP was raising his hand, maybe in answer to Senator Binay's question, please.
Oh, yeah. In answer to the question, Your Honors, the registry was lodged in the PIPES project. Many of our cultural experts here are familiar with the PIPES project, which after its first year was cut, the budget for which was cut. So that initiative was held in abeyance until such time that we were able to get funding for it again. If I may add, Your Honors, just a short statement.
Yes, please.
Okay, the current intellectual property regime followed by the world, or which is followed by the Philippines, protects, in summary, copyright, trademarks, patents, geographical indicators, and even industrial designs. None of which addresses the concerns of the indigenous peoples, mainly on authorship, on collective ownership, and non-expiry, non-devolving to public domain.
Yes.
Under our current laws, there are no rules that protect the indigenous people's rights on IPR, except possibly, no, not possibly, but directly, IPRA on sections 32 and 34. Sections 32 and 34 explicitly recognizes the intellectual property claims and rights of indigenous peoples. We have been using that to enforce the rights of indigenous peoples, but yes, it would help if we could collaborate with the IPO field, who has some expertise because they are always able to join the WIPO discussions on IGC or the discussions on intellectual property rights of indigenous peoples. Whereas NCIP is only able to procure budget once every 3 or 4 years, and so NCIP would really benefit from the expertise also of the IPO field on that discussion. This international discussion on indigenous people's rights on IPR. Also, the expertise of NCCA would help also. So, moving forward, we really a regular intensive meeting between the three agencies would help address these issues. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is that satisfactory, Senator Binay?
Yeah. Madam Chair, excuse me, may I be recognized, Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Antonio from NCCA.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
Just as a response to the question of Senator Binay, actually, Senator, meron po tayong archives ng inventory of Philippine cultural heritage. So actually sa National Museum, I think we can also use that
right.
Para sa Yeah po. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Exactly. I was about to recommend the same so that if it's all right with Senator Binay, I would like to instruct the committee secretary who's in the process already of dealing with the previous aforementioned resolution regarding the misappropriation on tribu slippers and other commercial goods. And include Senator Binay's. We hold off on that TWG, include Senators Binay's and Cayetano, and expand the TWG to include not merely the IPO or the NCIP, but also the NCCA, the National Museums, and the Design Center. We are fully aware that the NCIP once again suffered a reduction in its budget for 2021, and many of its efforts have been curtailed. Thank you. Is that okay, Senator Binay?
Madam Chairperson. And maybe can I just request from NCIP yung budgetary requirements for this PIPES project?
Ayan, may sponsor na kayo sa budget.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please proceed.
From the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, LG Bernardo. May we be included in the committee? There are some in the TWGs and whatever coordination that will be created between the Senate and even the national government agencies. We have jurisdiction, I think, and expertise over Muslim cultural textiles also. And just to validate what the NCCA and the NCIP already have databases. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's good, Mr. Bernardo. That's a valuable inclusion, and we would welcome that. Further, may I instruct the TWG to perhaps contact the UNESCO representatives here in the Philippines, because they're well aware and have vast experience in the registration of traditional and other cultural properties. Thank you. Thank you very
Madam Chair,
much.
siguro
Yes,
just to add, Madam Chair, just to add, yung DFA has a department for UNESCO. Maybe we can also include them in the
Yun.
TWG.
Kasi yung DFA at yung UNESCO, may representation at exchange naman tayo dyan. Is it Dr. Jason Roy Sibug who had a suggestion?
Yes, Senator Amy Marcos. Can we also suggest in the formation of the technical working group to include also indigenous people structures or indigenous peoples organization, as well as our tribal leaders or indigenous peoples mandatory representatives, to get their also views and opinion in the bill.
Yes, that's right. I think they were consulted during the first round, but given that there are two more bills, you have another opportunity to weigh in and make certain that these new efforts will really be responsive to our problems today.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Senator.
much. Okay, maraming salamat, Senator Binay. Thanks a lot. Alam ko may mga meeting pa tayo sa trade at saka sa public order, kaya sunod-sunod ang aming mga meetings today, no? So with that, we go back to the Nueva Vizcaya Resource Center, and I would like to inform the group that, in fact, this resource center, if I may, let me look for my papers, was already recommended on a broad-based national effort. Ito yung tinatawag na Senate Bills 443 by Senator Revilla, Senate Bill 706 by Senator Angara. And it required the establishment of resource centers for indigenous cultural communities and the delivery of essential services. This was already heard, these Senate bills from both senators, and now I think we have a local bill echoing the same from Representatives Go, Yap, and Quaresma, with regard specifically only to Nueva Vizcaya. Ang problema kasi na nangyari noon tungkol sa mga resource center was that there were many considerations, ano? And I welcome Governor Carling Padilla, who's here. Nagka-problema kami dito because this was a national bill originally. In this case, the House bill is specific to Nueva Vizcaya. Ngayon, yung issue dito, ang fundamental overlap of these resource centers with the function of the IPRTC, the NCIP. Alam mo, kasi ang NCIP may mandate na ganyan, biglang mauulit. Ganon din, yung NCCA, meron ring mga School of Living Traditions. The other functions are already integrated in the IPRA law, and there was some objection that this was redundant and that, in fact, it could cause controversy and duplication. The second main issue was that kapag Nueva Vizcaya lang, paano naman yung ibang mga SUC na merong ring siniserve na IP communities. So this is where we are, and perhaps Governor Padilla, who's a wise and experienced legislator, could help us with this in specifying what the resource and training center could look like without contradicting or duplicating other laws and institutions po. If Governor Padilla would like to speak, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if I'm being heard by the committee. Yes, I agree with the Honorable Chair, Madam Amy Marcos, that to some extent there would be a duplication of functions with existing agencies of government like NCIP, NCCA, etc. Then, of course, there is also the concern about other issues. However, I believe to some extent, Madam Chair, we can limit the functions of this proposed center because in Nueva Vizcaya, we have our own indigenous peoples which are not found in other regions or provinces. We have the Gandangs, the Isinays, of course, the Kalamuyas are also in region in the Car. We have the Bugkalot, we have the Iwak, the Ayangan, and the Dumagats. So yung, except po in the case of the Isinays and Bugkalots, basically all the rest are also, and the Gandangs, all the rest are found in other provinces. Pero ang concentration po ng mga ng population nito ay sa probinsya ng Nueva Vizcaya. Aside from that, Nueva Vizcaya is also home to migrant IPs like Ibalois, Kanganais, Bagos, Isnig, and even now we have the Maranaos coming all the way from area, Madam Chair. So, ang problema ko lang dito is baka it will become just a center on paper, but in practice, baka hindi rin po magiging effective. Yun lang ang concern ko. Especially so if the funding support will come in trickles as the experience now of various SUCs every time they put up a center. We did lobby for the creation of a citrus center in Nueva Vizcaya, pero until now, Madam Chair, halos wala nakukuha funding support. So, this is the reality. So, bahala siguro ang presidente ng state.
Yes. Nawawala si Go. Is there a representative from the SUC? Yes, Manong Carly.
Na mag-lobby later on sa DBM at saka sa Kongreso how they would be able to source out funds for these projects, activities. But in principle, Madam Chair, you would support this.
Thank you very much.
Chair?
Well, as I was in principle, we define constraints that SCs find themselves into when we create a center. I was citing an example that a few years ago, we wanted to put up a citrus center in Australia.
That's correct.
Chair?
Yes. The governor is done.
I'm just wondering
Yes.
if recognized by the chair. So, but to cut short my presentation, let me, in principle, support the approval of this bill, Madam Chair, in spite of the constraints that we have identified and mentioned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, if I may just respond to Dr. Padilla very quickly. I'm fully aware of the perspective of this.
Madam Chair, but it seems we have a why to some to the members. If there are some clarification, this representation would be such jail. Maraming salamat po for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Manong Carling. Kaya lang putol-putol po kayo, kaya hindi tayo magkarinigan ng todo. Ang akin na lang siguro, kung maaari, we are all, I think, in full support with Senator Nancy for the recognition and the strengthening of our cultural communities. But the issue has been that NCIP, NCCA, and even the IPRA law in its many manifestations have addressed so many of these issues or are attempting to, but as the commissioner Jong Navarro said earlier, hindi naman sila binibigyan ng pera. Ngayon, ang kinatatakutan ni Gob, mas lalong hindi bibigyan ng pera itong panibagong effort na naman na ito. Yung concern din nung nakaraan, meron tayong cultural issue rito, kaya sinabit ito sa eskwelahan. Pero tulad nga ng sinasabi ni Gob, yung problema talaga sa Nueva Vizcaya, yung economic degradation ng ating IP communities at yung citrus center and livelihood ang pinakamahalaga. Kaya during the last discussion, nagkagulo-gulo kami dito dahil may argument na dapat unang-una yung livelihood, ikalawa yung mga issues ng legal claims sa ancestral domain, kawalan ng titulo at lupa, the lack of access to education and health, all of that was deemed urgent and would be part of the resource services. And naging masalimuot na, ang dami-dami ng services kasama doon, hindi na lamang cultural. Kaya natenga yung diskusyon sa madaling sabi at walang pinaronan. Ang sabi nga ni Governor Padilla, lahat naman tayo suportado rito. Kaya lang siguro i-focus natin, kung may kakarampot na budget, i-focus natin sa pinakamahalaga para sa ating mga IP sa Nueva Vizcaya na alam natin, 18 cultural communities reside in Nueva Vizcaya. Napakaraming IP at napakaraming mahihirap. So, Senator Binay, please.
Chair, gusto ko lang
Opo, yes.
malaman yung what is the intent of the resource center? Is it to preserve the culture of the IP community or for economic reasons? Kasi
yeah, yun ang tanong ko kasi pati legal aid, di ba may problema rin, napakaraming problema sa ancestral domain at titulo.
Kasi, Madam Chair, if it's for the preservation of yung culture ng IPs, I think may programa yung NCCA, yung Schools of Living Tradition. So, baka kung yun yung purpose and intention, baka ito yung fastest way to do it by setting up a schools for living tradition among the different IP communities. But if for its economic purpose or for livelihood, baka it's for another agency, di ba? Na pwede nating hanapan ng pondo.
Opo.
Maybe, kasi for example, yung PTRI, di ba? Meron silang programa for fabrics or ano nga ba yung isang hinir natin sa DA?
Pero ang pinaka
Filtida, di ba?
Yung pinaka-urgent kasi sa Nueva Vizcaya na intinding-intindi ko si Gob, yung citrus industry. Sila yung citrus center ng Pilipinas, pero halos kakarampot lang ang natatanggap mula sa DA. Yun ang talagang urgent problem sa livelihood sana para sa mga IP ron. So, tama si Senator Binay, meron ng NCCA, meron pang NCIP, tapos nakita ko pa sa website ng ating SUC, may IP Culture Services naman. Siguro, tulong-tulungan na lang natin yung SUC. Pagkatapos alam ko, yung DepEd are also setting up IP schools. So, they're very active because of the controversial LUMAD schools where Senator Binay also participated. And I myself, as governor in Ilocos Norte, set up a Tingyan school in Nueva Era, Ilocos Norte, specifically for the Tingyan peoples. So, yung DepEd, meron rin yan. Siguro, tutukan na lang natin ang yung iba't ibang kailangan nila kasi kapag samot-sari talaga, hindi mo naman matutugunan lahat ng tanong. Siguro yung citrus, bigyan na lang natin ng budget finally. Sabi nga ni Gob, walang budget. Maybe we can hear from NCIP regarding these overlaps because they were very, very vocal about this problem during the last hearing regarding national resource centers. Yeah, NCIP, anybody would like to weigh in?
Your Honor?
Yes, Commissioner Jong.
If it's in reference to the last hearing, I wasn't present, so I'm sorry I cannot comment on that. However, I'd like to share, Madam, that...
I guess the question simply is, do you think there will be a potential overlap with your different NCIP offices?
As a There's certainly there will be an overlap. However, this is still a welcome because it's a focused establishment for Nueva Vizcaya. I suppose with its own support and resources, budget and whatnot. So it would be beneficial for Nueva Vizcaya particularly. So in the sense that just because there's overlap, I don't think it should be not considered. However, Madam, I recognize these limitations in budget, so we yield to the wisdom of the Senate, of our legislators on that.
Oo, tama yun kasi pati yung budget ngayon nai-infect ng COVID. Yung NCCA, maybe you have a comment about the School of Living Traditions that we're aware you put up in certain areas. Baka naman pwede maglagay na lang ng School of Living Tradition din at tulungan yung Nueva Vizcaya.
Yes, Madam Chair. From the end of National Commission for Culture and the Arts, we provide technical assistance to the communities, and we also give financial grants para sa ating mga project proposals, and of course yung SLT, Schools of Living Traditions, pwede pong ma-avail from the NCCA. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Financial grants that are available. How many schools at the moment do you have?
Schools of Living Tradition. We will check the files, Madam Chair, if, because we already enhanced the program before kasi binibigyan lang namin different phases, pero ngayon kasi meron na tayong enhanced School of Living Traditions. So 5 years po yung binibigay na program para sa mga Schools of Living Tradition. And then tinuturuan sila sige po.
Yeah, perhaps you can give us an updated briefer, kahit maiksi lang, just to give us some data, and we can work on integrating all these efforts sa Nueva Vizcaya.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Kasi marami-rami yan eh. Meron ngang NCIP, may tulong rin ng NCCA. Alam ko yung DepEd nakakatulong dahil sa mga eskwelahan para sa IP. And also, as the governor said, DA must support the citrus industry that's so vital to the province and the IPs in that area.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Binay.
Siguro, maybe we can request from Governor Padilla yung project proposal niya from for this citrus project. Baka during the budget deliberation, kahit pa paano mabigyan sila ng pondo para masimulan naman itong programa nila pagdating dito sa citrus project nila.
Actually, maganda at masigla yung citrus. Kaya lang, syempre, kailangan nila ng tulong. Pero dahil puro sariling sikap lang sila noon eh. Pero maganda talaga yung project. Governor Padilla, naririnig po ninyo?
Kasi, Madam Chair, baka yung DOST when it comes dun sa technology, baka pwede din makatulong or makabigay ng budget, lalong-lalo na dun sa mechanization netong citrus project nila, kung meron man.
That's right. Ang problema kasi dyan, pati yung distribution. Kasi ang hirap-hirap pumunta sa Nueva Vizcaya, alam naman ninyo. So, eto nga. Alright, so yes, NCIP once again. So, Manong Kaloy, Apo Gobernador, Senator Bina is asking for a copy of your citrus project po. And we can attempt to get some money for you. Yes, NCIP, Jong Navarro, please.
Your Honor, I was just in a meeting with the President of DBP, who is, and we are in the midst of finalizing our MOU. And part of it is, during our side discussions, there's a special focus on financing of IP projects, livelihood projects in Region 2, which will cover Nueva Vizcaya. So the good governor may want to look into that. We can facilitate also. Thank you.
Yes, if you could, Commissioner, submit to the committee the brief regarding that window for IPs in Region 2, I'd be grateful, so I can pass it on to the governor, because I'm not certain that his connection is so good.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Sige, salamat.
Madam
Is that
Chair?
Manny Herbosa and the rest in DBP? Sina Manny Herbosa yan. Land Bank has similar kasi parang nagko-compete rin sila for government man.
Madam
Okay,
Chair, siguro
Senator Binay.
just to add, baka it's just a matter of pooling resources from different government agencies. Kasi, di ba pati yung DSWD, meron din sila. Yung TESDA, meron sila. So baka, yun lang, kumbaga, paunti-unti from the different agencies, baka finally masimulan na itong programa na ito.
Yes, that's right. I'm in full agreement. So that whatever we call it, kung ano man yung pangalan niya, basta malocate siya dyan, mabigay yung mga essential services, yung preservation of culture, yung livelihood, yung legal claims, lahat yan kahit pa paano matugunan. Kasi isa sa pinakamahirap na rehiyon ang Cordillera, higit sa lahat yung Nueva Vizcaya. Maraming salamat. So tignan natin kung anong magandang committee report. And once again to the committee secretary, let us integrate the Nueva Vizcaya effort with the larger bills, which are of national import from Senators Revilla and Angara. Iisa na yung committee report kung paano natin gagawin sana. Tignan natin. Thank you. So we'd like to proceed to the national hijab. That's the next topic, and I believe there is a National Hijab Day celebration to be on February the 1st. So this is a House bill, and this was from Congressman Adjong and the rest. I'd like our ComSec to please call on our resource persons.
From NCMF po.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Senator Binay. I'm sorry I cannot turn on my video. My bandwidth is low at the moment. So we have attended the committee hearing with the National Hijab Day on the proposed bill, and we're very happy to report that there are no objections. It was a 10-minute committee hearing because of the overwhelming support, and we are also, we want to appeal to the Senate to also pass a counterpart bill on the National Hijab Day. This is in line with our similar legislation, starting with PD 1083, the Muslim Personal Code, Family and Personal Code, and the Bar Law and the NCMF law, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Sige, I think, are there any objections to this? The only concern, I think this is an international concern, was the date, NCMF. Dahil the World Hijab Day was founded in 2013, but the choice of February 1 as the event day was always controversial because it was also considered in the Middle East the return of Ayatollah Khomeini. So, parang meron ring issue doon. Sang-ayon ba kayo na dito sa Pilipinas, we recognize it on the same day? Or do we carve out, for example, certain dates in March, which is the Women's Month? Or we stick to what is recognized internationally?
Madam Chair, we will concede to the wisdom of Congress. However, February 1 has no, from our consultation with our communities, they have no issues with February 1, Your Honor.
Okay, so the other concern was among certain Muslim women, some progressive Muslim women who did not wish to wear the hijab and do not wear it on a daily basis. They also wanted assurance that they would not be compelled to do so. So, ang sabi ko naman, pagdiriwang lang naman ito, wala namang pilitan.
Madam Chair, precisely.
Okay, so
we honor women's rights.
Are there any specific activities that the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos intends to do so that we get a sense of this celebration?
Madam Chair, just last month we have passed a resolution, a unanimous resolution of all the commissioners to create a consulting body with an interagency consulting body with the CHED, DepEd, the DILG, and other government agencies, Your Honor. And we are in the process of studying what can be accommodated in our budget and what can be accommodated through an interagency effort. However, Your Honor, we don't have anything specific. We have, before in the past, we have encouraged everyone to wear the hijab. So, Your Honor, for certain that will still continue our promotion through circulars for a day to be set aside for women to honor the Muslim tradition and the empowerment that goes with wearing a hijab.
Yes, I think in addition to merely the physical manifestation of a hijab, siguro it would be more meaningful at this point to tie it in with the other burning issues of poverty, illiteracy, and solo parenting that plague many Muslim women I know. Siguro kung itali natin sa mga issue nila, mas magiging makabuluhan ang ating pagdiriwang. Suggestion lang po.
Madam Chair, for certain, we will look into that. And I think, Madam Chair, it's under the umbrella of empowerment also. So we will look into economic empowerment, empowerment and parenting, all that.
May mga issues kasi ng abject poverty and abandonment, alam na natin yan, domestic violence, and other problems. So maganda rin ma-address yan para hindi lang pagsusuot ng hijab, kundi yung meaning ng hijab. Maraming salamat. Si Fatima Kanakan, are you raising your hand po? Is that Fatima? Audio lang please. Hindi ka po marinig. Naka-mute, Comsec. Baka naka-mute si Fatima. Ayun.
Yes po.
Okay, naka-mute pa rin.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Good morning.
Good morning po.
Narinig? Opo. Good morning, Madam Chair.
You're fine. You're fine. Yes, you're coming in.
Thank you. Opo. So
Yes.
we thank the committee for the kind invitation for NCCA to attend and participate in this great endeavor, knowing that NCCA is in full support for the acknowledgement and protection and strengthening of different cultures in this country. And NCCA is in support to House Bill 8249, an act declaring the first day of February as National Hijab Day, promoting an understanding of the Muslim tradition wearing of hijab. Wearing of hijab forms part of the spirituality, culture, and identity of Muslims in the Philippines based on a Quranic verse not to display their beauty and commanded the wearing of a piece of cloth to cover the hair. The bill, if becomes a law, will diminish, if not totally eradicate, the discrimination and prejudices against Muslim women in this country. So we fully support the passage of the House Bill 8249, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Thank you very much. And with that, I think we should be able to make a short and quick committee report. Comsec Alberto, please. Okay, so ang susunod natin, yung tungkol naman sa ICCA, yung bill na nakarating na sa atin ito, and we had a hearing already on the Senate version filed by Senator Risa Ontiveros. So actually, na-discuss na rin po to. I would like to call on the others who are here. Sino ang maunang resource person natin dito?
NCIP po.
NCIP already submitted.
Yes, yes.
I'm in seat noon pa. Tungkol naman to sa Senate Bill 1128 which deals with more or less the same topic naman. Yes?
DNR.
Would you like to reiterate the salient points? Yes po? NCIP?
Good morning again, Your Honor.
Once again, this was a hearing attended by Chair Alan Capuyan, and I think, as I recall, may utang kayo sa committee kasi noon ang sabi, magsasubmit ng proposed amendments to IPRA. Kasi magbabago yung IPRA kapag pinasa ito, yung definition ng ancestral domain at ancestral land, and yung paragraph 2 of section 8, and also section 3D of the bill. So, I never received the amendments that were promised po.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, NCIP Commissioner Jong Navarro. Pakisabi kay Chair Alan na utang niya, hindi ikaw.
Yes, ma'am. However, it might be because, Your Honor, I cannot speak for the Congressman Kua and Chungalaw. However, on one of the committee hearings, they said that they will know. It was them that wanted to change the definitions or wanted those changes, but they have since manifested that they're no longer pursuing those changes. That's perhaps why the Chairperson Alan Kapuyan did not given up it. I will remind him, Your Honor.
Oh, sige. In any case, if that occurred in the lower house, just give us a briefer para we can push forward. In the meantime, there are still certain controversial questions and very important questions with regard to the ICCA registry. Is the process similar? The ICCA registry, pareho rin ba yan ng Certificate of Ancestral Domain Titles? Doon ako nalilito eh. Kung pareho at parang doble, tama ba ang pagkaintindi ko? Would it not be superfluous if both the ancestral domain and the ICCA will be registered? Parang pinahirapan mo pa yung IP kasi dala-dalawang titulo ang hahagilapin niya.
Not necessarily, Your Honor. First, I'm sorry, I responded already with your permission.
Yes, please proceed, yeah.
Okay. These are different items, Your Honor. The process of determining it is different, and it's not a title. It's marking areas within their ancestral domains as special conserved areas, meaning they themselves will identify and not wait for perhaps other legislations like NIPAS and from Congress to identify what is critical area for protection. The registry is also voluntary. It is not mandatory. They only need to identify, and through the help of DNR and CIP, survey that area which they determine to be a special conserved area for them.
I see. So, you're just segregating a certain portion of the ancestral domain. Ang problema nga, perhaps if I could integrate na lamang, dahil ancestral domains, lands, and a part thereof, sana ma-centralize itong dalawang separate processes. Kasi magulo na ngayon, baka dagdagan natin ang gulo. Dapat may centralized database.
Yes, Your Honor. This is an initiative together with DNR, so there will be less issues anticipated, unlike
Yes. The other issue that was of concern dun sa Kaliwa Dam hearing namin, dun sa Kaliwa Dam, medyo magulo kasi a lot of the ancestral domains, as we know, are really protected areas already. So sumasapaw-sapaw ang jurisdiction ng iba't ibang department. The Chairman Kapuyan, promised me that we could work on some kind of amendment for IPRA as well as for the NIPAS. Baka may magawa tayo dyan.
I'm not familiar, Your Honor, with the proposed amendments to IPRA regarding Kaliwa Dam.
No,
However,
it wasn't specific to Kaliwa Dam. It was merely a provision that DENR, for example, would uphold ancestral domain boundaries. Merong ganun eh. I'm not certain if I am precisely correct, but towards that direction, because in many cases, yung boundaries nga ng ancestral domain, overlapping yung jurisdiction ng DENR under NIPAS. So doon nagkakagulo at doon yung usapin ng kaliwa nagmula, pati yung gulo sa New Clark nung umpisa.
Your Honor,
Yes, Commissioner.
there should not be a confusion because in Section 13 of the NIPAS law provides that in areas of overlap between protected areas and ancestral domains, the governance shall remain with the indigenous peoples. It is the first time that the word governance was used in any legislation, and it extends to management of the area using customary laws, or IKS, indigenous knowledge systems and practices. That is very clear in the laws. What is confusing, Your Honor, is that in the IRR, that provision is watered down, and that is what's causing the confusion, Your Honor.
What does it say in the IRR, if you could enlighten us?
In the first portion of the IRR that relates to Section 13, it says that that provision of Section 13 of the law only pertains to already titled lands, not just any ancestral domain. So that's significant.
That limits it very severely.
Yes, Your Honor. Secondly, it says that any governance of the indigenous people is subject to the supervision of the protected area I forget the exact term, Your Honor, but the plan of the DNR and also the PAMB. Therefore, there's no true governance to speak of.
That's right. So we've seen this more and more frequently, that the IRR overturned legislation and are in direct contravention of the spirit of the law. So I think at that point, hindi ko na maalala yung specifics, Chairman Kapuyan and I agreed that we would put the specifics in Section 13 of IPRA itself, as well as integrate some manner of amendment into the NIPAS para hindi na ma-overturn sa IRR katulad na nangyayari ngayon. Parang ganun yung pinag-usapan.
Your Honor, if I may be so candid, we are very scared of any amendment to IPRA because while your intentions like of your office are very good, there will be others who may have other concerns and open up IPRA for other confusions. If I may repeat,
how do you suggest therefore to avoid such IRR?
If I may repeat myself, if you don't mind, it's very clear in the law what is allowed as recognition in the NIPAS law. It just has to be the provisions reminded to DNR, as we have been trying to do.
So the IRR derived from DNR, but I think NCIP acceded to the same. Hindi ba joint yan?
No, Your Honor. The IRR was given to the DNR. We were consulted, of course, including other CSOs, and certain departments of the DNR and the CSOs and NCIP agreed on a version, but when it was submitted, that version was not followed.
Okay, so all right. For example, in this law, in the ICCA registry, I just wanted clarification regarding adverse claims on land. Kasi yan lagi ang problema, yung mga boundary, no? Can you clarify how will the process be any different from the issuance of CADT or CALT? Is this a continuation of the process, or an aim to centralize the whole registry? I just need to understand how the thing works.
No, Your Honor. This is different from the title itself. If I may give another background, this is an international initiative to recognize to make international legal classification under the Convention on Biodiversity to identify areas which the IPs themselves deem as important for conservation, even if there is no such initiatives yet from the states. So they have different purposes. The registry gives it formality, while already IPs already know the areas of their ancestral domains that are essential for their biodiversity and environmental sustenance.
So, since you mentioned biodiversity, I'm assuming that more stringent measures will be put in place and enforced. Is
Yes,
that
Your
correct?
Honor.
Because there's no indication in the present draft of such measures.
Your Honor, it provides there that only indigenous knowledge systems and practices allowed in the area that's identified as ICCA, meaning even
with all due respect, ang problema dyan, some of these practices, most controversially kaingin, are traditionally practiced but are clearly anti-environmental. Doon kami nagkakaproblema dyan sa totoo lang. Kasi kapag linagay mo yung only IP systems, naloko na parating naisip namin sa bundok, kaingin.
Your Honor, there are several studies that show that Sweden farming is in fact desirable in certain areas to recharge the earth, to provide widespread forest fires, etc. It is not by itself destructive.
But I think you have to agree with me that the deforestation suffered by the Philippines has been severe and not restorable in any way.
According to this identifies only the indigenous ways of call it kaingin, Your Honor, but not the commercial large-scale logging kaingin that can deforest large areas of land.
Sometimes kasi nagkakakumplutan dyan dahil sa hirap ng IP natin, nagagamit naman sila
Yes, Your Honor. In any case, if I may offer, there is a limitation also that the DNR can still, if defined, if they can present evidence that a practice is really destructive, despite being indigenous, then even indigenous practice can be limited. So it is not absolute, Your Honor.
Yeah. I think Baguio led the way, right? By declaring the eating of canines and dogs as illegal. At pare-pareho kami sa norte na pinagbawalan na rin yan. Pero once again, IP practice yan. Alam naman natin yan. So, yung padugo, bahagi na talaga ng kanilang practice. Kung minsan, hindi naman talaga katanggap-tanggap. So, okay. So, ang hihingin ko sa inyo, maybe, although Chairman Kapunan had already submitted with regard to the Senate bills, siguro hihingin ko na rin whatever you submitted sa Congress to be officially provided to this committee para we're updated. Kasi wala kayong position paper na nasubmit so that we can take it together.
Regarding ICCA, Your Honor, we have submitted our position paper. We will submit it again.
You submitted the old one. What I have is the old one from Chair Kapunan. Do you have a new one?
I will check, Your Honor, the versions and submit if there is a
Sige, kung ano man yung latest para updated tayo. Also, Committee Secretary, Attorney Alberto, meron bang sinabi yung DENR tungkol dito?
Yes, ma'am, they submitted, ma'am, a position paper. And, ma'am, they are present po ngayon.
Yes, would
DNR.
the DENR like to comment and defend themselves against the charge that the IRR contravenes the law?
Good morning, Madam Senators, Madam Chair. On the part of the
What's your name po?
This is Assistant Director Amelita Ortiz, ma'am, from the DNR Biodiversity Management Bureau.
Okay. All right. Sige. Parang
Actually,
hindi ko...
we prepared our position and we furnished an advance copy to Attorney Alberto, but we will submit the signed copy within the day.
sige.
Yes, ma'am.
Ay, kaya siguro hindi pa binibigay sa akin kasi hindi pa nakapirma, no? Pero okay lang. In the meantime, can you give me some salient points just to give the group an idea of what we had in mind?
Thank you, Madam Senator. On the part of the Biodiversity Management Bureau po, we welcome the two House bills because we think that this will bridge the gap between the IPRA law and the NIPAS. So, however, we have some comments. The Bureau...
Did you also take into consideration the two Senate bills?
Yes, Madam Senator.
Okay.
Okay, so the Bureau has some reservations on the responsibility of DENR through BMB as the main repository and administrator of the National Registry. The NCIP, which has the main mandate over IP concerns pursuant to the IPRA, is in a better position to administer the National Registry as provided for in the bill. While the DNR through the BMB has technical expertise on biodiversity conservation, it may just extend the necessary technical assistance to the NCIP in the establishment and management of the National Registry.
Okay.
Regarding naman, ma'am, dun sa na-mention nila about the conflict of the boundaries between the PA and the ancestral domain. We don't think it's in conflict with the IPRA law because we have the IRR have Section 13, the ancestral domains and customary rights, and under Rule 13.6, the local communities, ICCs, IPs, shall be entitled to a fair and equitable share of benefits arising from the utilization of resources and ecosystem services and the use of indigenous knowledge systems and practices. So under 13.7 of the same section, in PAs that share common areas with ancestral territories covered by CALTI, the PAMB shall convene a coordination and complementation committee, which will have the following functions.
Yes, but Director, I don't wish to interrupt, but I need to remind you that's precisely what the Commissioner was objecting to, that in the end, it is the PAMB and the DENR that calls the shots. And you are reading precisely that section that reinforces his complaint.
However, Madam Senator, in the Protected Area Management Board, if there is indigenous peoples within the PAs, definitely they will be a member of the PAMB. So siguro po, hindi na...
Pero member lang yan. Ang sabi sa batas, silang governance. Malaking pagkakaiba yung bossing ka at member ka lang ng napakalaking PAMB. May marami kaming PAMB kaya kabisado ko yan
Ma'am, kaya po welcome din sa yes, Madam Senator. Kaya po welcome nga po sa amin yung dalawang Senate bills kasi ito yung nakikita namin nasasagot kung ano man yung gap dun sa sa NIPAS at sa IPRA law.
Siguro, ang maganda siguro, mag-usap kayo ng DENR sa biodiversity, total nandiyan ka na, at saka si Commissioner Navarro. Kasi mas kabisado ninyo yung mga problema natin At siguro kayo rin ang makakakamit ng solusyon. Yes, Commissioner Jong, I think you were raising your hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you for the very sharp observation, Your Honor. May I just also reiterate that there are departments of the DNR that agreed to a certain version that the CSOs and CIP agreed to, including uh, the BMB, but
Yes.
because of the differing mandates that of different units of the DNR, that's where the problem arose. So it's not really because of BMB, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So sana mag-usap kayo. In the meantime, I will await the position of the NR. Please be responsive to the concerns of the NCIP regarding Section 13 and the IRR.
Yes, Madam Senator. Thank you very much. Makikipag-usap po kami closely with the NCIP. Thank you po.
Oo, sige. Maraming salamat kung ganon. Committee Secretary, meron pa bang resource persons tungkol sa ICCA?
Ma'am, from Tuklas Katutubo po.
Tuklas Katutubo. Ang Tuklas Katutubo, kanina pa nagme-message tungkol sa citrus, sa mga citrus fruit ng Nueva Vizcaya, di ba? Sana ba kayo?
Mr. Kutaran po.
Nasaan na po? Marami kasi tayo, hindi ko na nakita eh. Eka. Opo, would you like to speak, please? We recognize Tuklas Katutubo.
Mr. Karu po.
Yes?
Mr. Kutaran.
Yes. I am Roland Carupto, a provincial board member ng Nueva Vizcaya and also a member of the Tuklas Katutubo po.
Yes, yes. Did you want to add anything to the discussion regarding the special protected areas within the ancestral domain?
Yes, Madam Chair, meron po akong punto po dito.
Opa.
Na meron po nag-apply ng isang tribe o tribo po dito sa Nueva Vizcaya ng almost 10 years na po ng ancestral domain application nila na hanggang ngayon po ay wala pa. After po yung mga proseso na ginawa po nila, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin po silang certificate of ancestral domain title. So almost 10 years na po. Naghintay na po yung tribong gandang ng Nueva Vizcaya. At gusto ko itanong na yung pong NCIP sa region, ano na nangyari sa kanilang application. And second po, Madam Chair, may mga mining companies po dito sa Nueva Vizcaya na yung kanilang lupain po ay sinasaklaw po ng ancestral domain. Yung isang tribo na sumasaklaw doon sa ancestral domain ay hanggang ngayon ay meron po mga issues and concerns na hindi po nila pinapakinggan ang grupo na yon. Ito po yung grupo ng Bugkalot po dito po sa Nueva Vizcaya. It has something to do with the big mining. At the same time, kawawang-kawa po ang mga IPs po dito na yan po kanilang lupain. Hanggang ngayon ay hindi po nila tinikilala at saka isa pa po yung kanilang karapatan i-develop po ang lupain na yon. So we have two big mining companies po ng Nueva Vizcaya, is ang Oceana Gold at saka yung FCF Minerals po. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Manong, Apo Konsehal, Karob.
Yes, ma'am.
Gandang ka rin, ano? Maganda yung headdress mo eh.
Opo, ma'am. Ito po.
tunay na Tuklas Katutubo. Okay, yes. Perhaps the NCIP would like to reply to our gandang representative from Tuklas Katutubo, Apo Karob. Meron pa bang NCIP? Ang tagal daw. Lampas na 10 years, wala pa rin napapala. At ikalawa, na-overtaken na raw ng Oceana at FCF Mining.
Your Honor, may I?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, on the first topic, the Gadang ancestral domain claim or Kanti claim, there is a boundary conflict with other IP groups that has yet been settled. I think that's the latest reason why that has not yet been finalized. Also, you may realize that our budget for titling is only 10 million per year, 11.5, I believe, and all over the country. So when there's such boundary conflicts, it really is hard to schedule such titling.
Okay.
And we
Talagang
quite
alam ko
ideate.
nabawasan yung budget ninyo.
Opo. On the second issue,
Maraming naglalabi kontra sa NCIP. Alam niyo yun, ano?
opo. I speculate, Your Honor. On the second issue of the Bongkolot, I believe that area of Oceana has not been established yet as there's a lot of proof of their ownership, including the lack of a single presence of persons from that IP group in that area being claimed. That's why, and it's also occupied by other IPs, so it's difficult to give finality to their claim that it is their ancestral domain. Besides, there were earlier applications for Inupukkalots that have already been granted, and we find still no significant reason why there's a belated claim to this other area.
I see. Yes, the mountains become significantly complicated. In as much as in Nueva Vizcaya, there are 18 different IPs, and even within those IPs, there are different clans, different communities involved. So, naintindihan ko, but 10 years is a heck of a long time to be waiting. So, budget na naman ang rinereklamo po ninyo. Apo Konsehal, baka may magawa naman tayo dyan. Pagtulong-tulungan na lang natin yan. Maybe the local government, with Apo Gobernador, with the NCIP, siguro pagtulungan na lang natin kahit papaano para matapos na yung diskusyon. Kawawa naman yung gandang. Quickly disappearing tribe and one of our favorite cultural treasures. So, is there anyone who would like to add to the ICC register bill?
Samahan ng patutubo sa Mindanao po, ma'am.
Okay,
Si Mr. Abelardo.
Yes, samahan please.
Yes, Madam Chair, good morning. I would like to clarify on the end of NCIP the status of the technical working group formed between the NCIP and the MIPA, which is in the BARM. So I would like to clarify what are the alternatives options on the cease and desist order filed by the member of the BARM to the NCIP, because we have also claimed for more than 10 years now, which is the Kati claim of Teduray and Lambangian in the province of Maguindanao. So supposedly a subject for the issuance last year. However, the BARM filed a cease and desist order, which is the Resolution 38, to stop the issuance of CADP. So I would like to know the status of the technical working group formulated by the two parties, and clarify also the area of the jurisdiction and the operation of NCIP, because we cannot deny the fact that we also, Non-Moro IP, composed of 6 tribes in BARM, are also IP. Thank you po.
Thank you. This the NCIP. This is not square on the subject, but probably highlights the importance and urgency of the same. NCIP Commissioner, please.
Yes, Your Honor. There have been several meetings between NIPA and NCIP. We feel for the IPs there. The BARM law provides for the recognition of rights of the indigenous peoples in the BARM area. However, the MIPA has yet, or the BTA has yet to to finalize their version of IPRA. That's where
May
the
deadline ba yan? May timeline ba yan? Kasi issuance na ito ng CADSI eh.
Hindi, walang deadline na binigay sa BARM, Your Honor.
Surely the cease and desist order should have a timeline.
The cease and desist was issued by the I'm not sure if the unit of the BARM government.
BARM nga nag-issue, pero hindi naman pwedeng forever yan.
Yes. Subsequent, Your Honor, to that cease and desist, there have been meetings, in fact, visits by NCIP to NIPA. We have Commissioner Jenny Sibuglas, who is a member of the TWG, who may be more authoritatively able to speak about the subject.
Okay, so Commissioner Jenny, would you like to add? Yes, Commissioner Jenny, you're recognized. Yung audio po, hindi kayo naririnig. Yes, Committee Secretary, if you could contact them. I think we're unable to hear.
Yeah, yes, hindi po lumalabas yung speaker po niya sa...
Yeah.
There is a problem with the audio of Commissioner Jenny po.
Okay.
For now po, ma'am, Neda wishes to speak po, wishes to be recognized. Miss Nieva Natural.
Yes, please.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to the members of the committee. We would like to forward our initial comments on the bill. We support the bill, and we have a few initial comments and recommendations. One is on the establishment and operation of the National ICCA Registry. We agree with the position of BMB that NCIP will be in a better position to ensure smooth implementation of the law.
Okay.
NCIP to take the lead in the establishment and operation of the registry. Second, yes, Madam Chair, on the EIA system, the conduct of the EIA for projects outside ICA is beyond the scope and coverage of the bill. Thus, we suggest having a general reference instead to the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System, or the PEISS. The bill can stipulate that any project situated in an environmentally critical area, whether or not it has potentially adverse impacts, is covered under Presidential Decree 1586 and is required to undergo the environmental impact assessment process.
Thank
That
you.
will be all, Madam Chair. We will be submitting
Thank you very much.
our
That's my
signed
dance
position.
language. Yes, that's right. That's my dance language. I recall that, PD. And your points are very well taken. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eva Nicoral. I expect that you have something written to be submitted to the committee. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. It's already with the secretary. He will sign it probably this week.
Okay, maraming salamat. Okay.
We will send it.
Kamay. Opo?
Yes,
Do we have Jenny Sibuglas na? Okay na? Okay na yung sound mo? Ako hindi ko siya naririnig. Okay, si Fatima po. Yes, Fatima.
Yes, Madam Chair. Going back to the issue of what Mr. Edward Abelardo has said earlier, the issue of the indigenous communities in the Bangsamoro must be discussed with NCIP, Madam Commissioner Baijen, must be discussed with NCIP in the intergovernmental relations, because there's an intergovernmental relations that had been established by the national government to tackle and discuss issues with the Bangsamoro government pertaining to the rights of the indigenous communities
So
in the
ano na
Bangsamoro
nangyari ngayon? Ano
territory.
na yung status? Ano na yung status?
Ang pagkakaalam ko, Madam Chair, ay hindi po na-convene yung IGR with the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs in the BARM and the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. Because once this will be convened, yun po talaga yung venue na pwedeng pag-usapan lahat ng mga usapin ng kinakaharap ng mga katutubong pamayanan sa Bangsamoro, lalong-lalo na po
Bakit
yung
hindi
usapin ng
na-convene?
Ancestral.
Kung 2020, tsaka mabigat-bigat yung cease and desist order, bakit hindi urgently convened?
May konting baka mga technicalities po because I'm not also in the position to discuss extensively what happened in the Bangsamoro Parliament when they pushed for the for the cease and desist order, recognizing the ancestral domains of the indigenous communities in the Bangsamoro.
Alam mo, mabuti pa kasi nahihirapan tayo kay Commissioner Jenny at saka si Commissioner Jong, hindi naman nakatutok dun sa problemang yon. Mabuti pa siguro mag-submit na lang kayo ng konting briefer para maintindihan namin yung sitwasyon at matulungan namin kayo.
Yes, Madam Chair, we're doing that. We will submit a position with regard to that matter.
Okay, thank you very much. The hour has become quite late. If there are no more discussions regarding the ICA, you are welcome to submit any relevant documents, position papers, policy recommendations that you may have. I will be welcoming the same at malaking tulong po sa amin yan. Ngayon, yung kahuli-hulihan nating agenda po, may kinalaman sa Universal Non-Discrimination Clause on the basis of race, ethnicity, and religion. Sino ang ating mga resource persons dito? Nagtaka lang po ako dahil wala rito yung gender, ano po? Yun pa naman yung hinahabol ng ating mga LGBT at other communities. Meron po ba tayong comment tungkol dito? Yes, our secretary, please.
We have, as resource persons, ma'am, we have NCIP, NCCA, NCMF po muna.
Sige. Okay. Yes. Who would like to go first? Please proceed.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
for
please.
NCMF.
Yes.
Your Honor, we agree with what you have mentioned a while ago, wherein you wanted to include gender. So in NCMF, our position, even in the lower house, is that we should leave no community, no minorities behind, Your Honor. So if we include gender in the Senate version, that would be welcome with the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos, Your Honor.
Kung pasok na tayo sa realm ng chismis, bakit ba na-delete itong gender? Kasi ba yung inaasahan at yung lower house, pinasa kasi yung SOGI, samantalang sa Senate, walang pag-asa yung SOGI, parang ganon?
Your Honor, we can only say.
Hindi, kasi may SOGI yung Congress, meron silang SOGI bill yung para sa gender specifically. Samantalang sa Senate nga, ako nag-file nun kami ni Risa, kaya lang parang walang patutunguhan Kaya't eto yata yung compromise, parang ganon. Ewan ko kung papayag.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may speak.
Yes, please.
From the NCMF again, what we have attended in the lower house is comprehensive anti-discrimination proposal or bill, which includes gender, and the NCMF has said in its position paper that it affirms the inclusion of gender minorities in a comprehensive discrimination bill. However, Your Honor, if this will move forward, without the gender minorities, we will still welcome it, Your Honor. And if we may submit detailed position paper on it if the Senate, if a counterpart Senate bill is already drafted, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, maraming salamat. So we heard from NCMF, is NCAA or NCIP also going to weigh in on this?
Miss Fatima po from NCCA is raising her hand po.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Maraming salamat ulit, Madam Chair.
Yes,
House
yes.
Bill number 8243 is a big help para mawala, ma-address ang usapin ng diskriminasyon at mga prejudices. Hindi lamang ito sa gender, kung hindi pati sa religion. Because most of the Muslims are minsan na-isolate sila or napapagkamalang mga terorista pag nakataha or naka-bail. Napakahalaga pong itong House Bill 8243 at tama na rin po kung may if there's a counterpart bill, proposed bill from the Senate. So we are in full support to push for the anti-discrimination bill.
Papayag ba kayo na isama na rin yung gender?
Wala po namang, kami bilang mga Muslim ay kinikilala din po namin yung iba't ibang mga gender.
That's right.
Opo. So wala pong question na isama po ang usapin ng gender sa anti-discrimination bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Madam
I guess
Chair.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Madam
NCIP,
Chair, just
NCIP. Oh, NCCA, yes, Apo Antonio.
Yes, just to add to the statement of Ms. Fatima, yun nga naging issue nga rin yung yung Mountain Province people na Igorot people na nasabi sa DepEd textbooks na they're kulot and those kinds of issues, tapos ITAS can be found in Mountain Province. So I think itong bill na to makakatulong din sa pag-promote ng ating mga indigenous peoples groups, no. So maraming salamat, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you very much. Parang si Commissioner Jong, meron bang nagtaas po ba ng kamay? Yes, NCIP, please.
Your Honor, we support the bills. It helps prevent discrimination of indigenous peoples. May I just add, if you don't mind,
yes,
in support of the concerns of our brother Muslims and brothers and sister Muslims, the position related to the use of the hijab. As secondary to that bill, we were proposing a provision that also penalizes discrimination on employment against women on account of the hijab, non-availment of any government service, including frontline services by Muslim women by reason of their hijab, ordering Muslim women to remove their hijab against their will, and other forms of discrimination against the hijabis.
So you propose that these additional hijab provisions should be included in this bill?
In the earlier bill declaring the February 1 as a hijab day, Your Honor, but we were raising a hand, but we're not seen.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, wearing hijab. Pero actually, may relevance din to dito kasi yung iba't ibang suot ng ating mga tribu, tulad kanina, ang ating konsehal na gandang representative, may headdress rin po sila na hindi naman hijab, yung kay Apo Karob, na pagkaganda-ganda nga. Dapat, hindi nga yan element na gagamitin as discriminatory either. Siguro, we can also put a provision here, pati a traditional dress, or indigenous costume.
That would be most welcome, Your Honor.
Siguro we can put it in more general terms to encompass the universe of traditional and indigenous peoples and other religious sectors that have specific dress requirements, for example. Sige, pwede natin dagdag yan. Pero yung sinasabi ng NCIP dun sa National Hijab Day, okay ba doon yung National Muslim group natin ni Apo Elardo? Andiyan pa ba siya?
Committee Secretary, yung National Muslim, okay ba sa ayon ba sila na may hijab provision doon sa National Hijab Day?
Mr. Bernardo po.
Yes.
Madam Chair, of course, we will welcome any stronger protection towards wearing the hijab, Your Honor. And if we could expand this, maybe the title of the legislation, because the legislation will only say National Hijab Day, if I am not mistaken, Your Honor. So it might not be encompassed. However, we could amend even the title, Your Honor.
Yeah, dapat lang kasi kailangan baguhin yung title. Dahil every bill must only encompass one subject matter. And in that case, you will be having two subject matter, the declaration of a single day. And in addition, you would be having the rights and functions that are protected for those women wearing hijabs. Ano? So, kailangan maayos yung title.
Ma'am Ched po wishes to speak.
Yes, please. Ched is recognized. Sino po yung inyong maid de mesa ang nakikita ko rito? May Hazel, may Alin Magalong. Alin po ang magsasalita? Please go ahead.
Okay. This is Marilyn Ngales. Ako po ay member ng TWG ng CHED.
Okay.
And this was newly formed last year, and we had a series of meetings because of the CMO integrating Indigenous studies in higher education.
Okay.
And that is very welcome po, because how can we disseminate all this discrimination, all these kinds of violations, if we do not course it also through the academe? And the committee has been very active. Ched has been calling us for suggestions. And one, the institutionalization of this in the curriculum is already a very important undertaking. And we are proceeding with trainings kasi po yung focus niya is to train faculty members. I am an Igorot. I'm a Kankanaay from Mountain Province, and I hold a doctorate on all of this. So I'm just saying this to certain people that we also have these capabilities, and we welcome this. And as deliverers, we have to also train non-IPs. They are the ones who dominate the HEIs.
That's right.
Yeah, and the non-IPs are very active in our extension programs, and they agreed that they need these kinds of trainings. So,
do you have any specific recommendations or issues with the bill at hand regarding universal non-discrimination and access po?
I agree po doon sa sinabi ng bill na ito na magkaroon po ng Committee on Non-Discrimination sa iba't ibang agencies. Maybe we can tackle the details doon po. I would like to start with the trainings of cultural sensitivities kasi ito yung umpisa eh. Cultural competence. People can say, well, I'm culturally aware, but are you culturally competent? And dito po natin hinahanap ang ating kapwa katutubo to help in this endeavor, because we subscribe to trainings on site where we engage with the IPs who are the doctorates themselves. The PhDs in the fields are the IPs. Sila ang magiging resource person, kaya we encourage mga kaya lang itong pandemic, it has limited us on that aspect.
There's a specific provision regarding discrimination in education and training.
Yes,
and do you believe in a quota system or affirmative action in the SUCs, for example, or would that be counterproductive?
I believe in the affirmative action. First of all, we have been denied. Yung mga IPs have been denied some access to, standards. Let me give, opo ma'am, kasi here is an example. The hiring, for example, of IT teachers who are qualified, hindi sila nararangko. I don't know, for various reasons, they are not included in the rankings. And so we had to
Are you referring to CHED or to
DepEd.
DepEd?
DepEd muna, ma'am, kasi ngayon lang nagkaroon ng CHED ng ganitong mandate. But we have a lot of cases regarding that, and we can mention that in any other forum, in some other forums. At saka, ma'am, yung pong institutionalization ng training centers sa Nueva Vizcaya, we are all for it because even if DepEd has its own programs, basic education po yun. NCCA would have the SLTs. I mean, there are limitations. The Nueva Vizcaya is one pocket we are looking at. If we have to have a lot of regional pockets for trainings on teachers and involvement of IPs, magaling po na may nag-establish na and we institutionalize this. Kaya tama si Governor Padilla na it has been a long discussion, but if it is institutionalized, magkakaroon po siya ng clout. Magkakaroon siya. And we will totally agree. Kami po sa academy, we agree with anything that will help us in the dissemination of all our researches, of all our efforts.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngales of CHED. Please feel free to submit your position and direct comments on the bill. Is there anyone who has not been consulted and would like to be heard?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ngales. I am fully aware of the competence and excellence of many of our IP graduates. We have been the beneficiaries of their talent and their hard work in Ilocos Norte and elsewhere.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Is that Fatima? Yes, you recognize. Would you like to add to the anti-discrimination bill?
Chair, that the
Yes,
NCCA will submit.
Okay,
that the NCCA.
Yeah, I think we need, yes, Fatima and Mr. Antonio, parang kailangan namin yung input ninyo dito sa mga discriminatory acts kasi parang hindi siya kompleto. Sa totoo lang, yung nabanggit kanina ni Dr. Ngales na yun nga, yung portrayal sa mga libro ni ng DepEd, sinabi na nga Mr. Antonio, hindi talaga katanggap-tanggap yun. Ano? At kinakailangan nasa listahan po ng punishable acts at hindi talaga dapat tanggapin. Yes, Committee Secretary, I'll await the NCCA's definitions. Baka mas maganda yung inyong pagkalatag kasi trabaho nyo yun eh. Okay. Attorney Alberto, please, are there resource people? I see there are TESDA representatives, there are DBM representatives. Baka dapat tawagan ng DBM ngayon kasi lahat nagre-reklamong walang budget.
Okay. Miss Maria Helen Dayo po, ma'am. She's raising her hand po.
Yes, Maria Helen Dayo. Which group do you represent? Which sector or office?
Audio po, ma'am.
Miss Dayo? Wala po kayong tunog. Ayun.
Okay. Yes, good morning. I am Maria Helen Dayor, member of the CHED Technical Panel on Gender and Women's Studies. I would like to share with you the position of CHED with regards to to House Bill 8243. We have a general impression that the definition of terms shall be derived or adapted from the different agencies like NCIP, especially in the definition of ethno-linguistic group and the use of race in the title of the bill. Because as we all know, when we talk about race, it has a biological characteristics that is very distinct from other races. But that is just a suggestion. So I would like also to emphasize that according to several literature, race is also similar to ethnic group, NCIP can attest to this. And alternatively, when we use race, it means exclusive biological and other cultural behavioral characteristics. So for the capture of the bill, I would like to highlight that difference. Also, I would like, in general, I would like to say that the commission, the CHED, has issued a CMO number 1 series of 2019 about the integration of peace studies and education into the relevant higher education curricula. And they also directed CMO number 2 series of 2019 integration of indigenous peoples studies education into relevant higher education curricula. So these are important suggestions of CHED with regards to this particular bill, House Bill 8243. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, and I hope you receive that in writing. Fatima just messaged that a position will be submitted. NCIP, Jong, I think you wanted to add something?
Yes, Your Honor. House Bill number 8243 is a novel piece of legislation, Your Honor, as it gives further protections to IPs and reinforces the provisions of IPRA. However, it is a humble recommendation to the Senate committee that the Senate version on anti-discrimination, particularly Senate Bills number 1675 and 137, be adopted as it is more comprehensive and complete, Your Honor. And I think it answers already some of the concerns raised here.
Yes, that's right. I think there's a more comprehensive definition. However, dun sa House Bill, anong tingin mo dito sa prohibited acts? Kasi mas marami silang prohibited acts kaysa sa Senate version. Apakadaming prohibited acts. Ano sa palagay ninyo? Maganda ba yun o hindi? May mga inciting to commit acts of discrimination. Ewan ko, are there any lawyers about who can have a look at the actions that are being punished? They are very, very extensive in the House bill.
Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Perhaps the same PWG that combs through the Senate version be asked to look at the House version because there's been an intimate discussion on those prohibited acts.
Oo, kasi maikli lang kasi yung prohibited act. Maiksi lang kasi yung prohibited acts sa Senate eh. Pero sa House bill, apakarami. So I'm wondering if they're actually subsumed in the Senate provisions or we have excluded too many. Pag-aralan na lang po natin sa TWG kasi mahaba-habang discussion to. Yes, Dr. Jason Sibug. Taas ka ng kamay, Dr. J.
Yes, Senator Amy Marcos.
Yes.
Our suggestion from Tuklas Katutubo regarding the bill presented, submitted by Congress, we may suggest to consolidate it also to the bills that the technical working group has just finished reviewing, para isa na lang kasi mahaba din yung na-discuss namin, and it also includes in the technical working group issues on discrimination among tribal groups using their names, their language. So kasama na doon including education issues ng mga katutubong Pilipino. So it's good if we can consolidate it and para yung nasimulan hindi rin siya masayang na ginawa na natin yun, Senator Amy. Then
ulit ano?
And also in the bill that presented by Congress, it is mentioned there the term ethnic, and ang stand ng Tuklas Katutubo, samahan ng mga katutubo sa Pilipinas, that I think the political term is not ethnic for the indigenous peoples if you are referring IPs, but rather use the term indigenous peoples because the term indigenous peoples is far different from the term ethnic. Hindi natin alam baka may salitang ang ethnic might refer to other groups, but by law, as IPRA's under the principle of IPRA, it should be declared, it should be known as indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
right.
it.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I understand. It's very, very difficult to come to a final listing because discrimination comes in insidious, subversive, and subconscious forms. Lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng electronic media, malawakang diskriminasyon talaga ang makikita. Kaya kinakailangan na malawak din ang ating isipan at pagsusulat nitong batas. With that, you will also notice that the punishment, the penalties, nag-iiba masyado, no? Ng difference ng imprisonment, ng mga fine, pagkalaki-laki. At may mention ang House Bill ng reparation sa ating mga biktima. So I think all these need to be studied further, and if I may instruct the committee secretary to constitute a TWG, and all volunteers will of course be welcome to join, and we will once again need the help of the women's groups. I think gender has been agreed upon in the absence of a SOGI bill in the Senate. Siguro kailangan natin idagdag yung women's group, ano? Kailangan rin siguro yung ating iba't ibang katutubo, ang ating Muslim groups. Meron pa ngang humihingi na isama daw yung matatanda, yung senior citizens on account of age, ano? So dapat may senior citizens din, deprived of access to education, for example, or employment, and so on. So perhaps we can come up with a preliminary list, but for all those who are present, we welcome your volunteer effort if you would like to make one. So to all of you, is there anyone who'd like to add anything?
From samahan ng mga katutubo po, Mr. Abelardo?
Human rights abuse na yan ng IP at iba pa. Yung samahan, did somebody make a manifestation?
Mr. Abelardo? Naka-raise po yung hand niya.
Nakatas? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Abelardo, tama ba? Nakataas ba yung kamay mo o
all right.
iba naman
Thank you so much, Chair. I would like to support lang po dun sa gender, dun sa inclusion of the gender doon sa Universal Anti-Discrimination Bills. So we will, on our end, we will going to pass our position on that, making yung pagsusulat natin ng bill.
Thank you. Well taken, Mr. Abelardo. And also the DepEd has volunteered to join the CHED, the two representatives that are here. Perhaps one of you can also join us because clearly the issues are wide-ranging and impact on our educational efforts. So kasama rin po kayo yung NCCA. I'm afraid you're going to have to join us once again, and we'll count on your expertise. Ganon din yung iba't ibang ahensya na may kinalaman rito. So if there are no more comments, we will now constitute a TWG to finally deal with this measure, and we will come up with a committee report at the earliest possible time. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng sumama. Yung TESDA na hindi naman nagsalita, Dina Esmas, nevertheless, we will also count on you together with the CHED and the DepEd as part of the very important and pivotal educational sector in the fight against discrimination of all kinds. Sa inyong lahat, maraming salamat, and thank you participating in the Committee on Cultural Communities. Maraming salamat, bye-bye. Yes,
Thank you very much.
salamat, Mr. Antonio, Dato Jason, mga suki ko dito sa ating committee. Madalas tayo nagmi-meeting at masaya. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you po, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam
Thank you, everyone.